Music to the noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine Gun Kelly get caught in the fake. Facts and logic with a twist of chest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor pulls the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity when they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steampunk Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
Hey there.
Hey, so I'm just
Machine Gun Kelly.
I'm just blasting the link now so everyone can come join us.
Sorry, this was my fault. I accidentally sent Tony the wrong link. But at least there wasn't a missing link. had to throw in a pun there. Yeah. So Tony and I have been mutuals on Twitter for a few years now.
Yeah.
And I've always found he has interesting insights. I would say he is on the left, but he doesn't fit any conventional left type thinking. Like he has some really unique perspectives and ideas, and that's why I wanted to have him on here, because as you know, if anybody's been watching this show for any length of time, I feel like, you know, we need the South Korea this position we're in.
Not North Korea, South Korea, right?
South Korea, yes.
I just want to be clear. Yeah.
Yes, okay. North Korea, they're okay with their despots. South Korea, the despots did not fare well, because everybody just set aside their own little important things and said, okay, nothing's getting done as long as this despot is there. And they all came together and they all got rid of the despot. Like, that was the agreed upon thing. And I always like to say it's like debating the curtains while the house is burning down. Like, you don't do that.
Do you think South Korea, when they look at their neighbor to the north, and that's the reason, I mean, maybe a big reason why they would be like, nah, I don't think we want to do that.
I imagine that would have a lot to do with it. Yes.
You see what I mean by, like, they kind of feel.
I mean, there's probably people that remember, because it was like 50s was this Korea War, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like in your 90s, which is not unusual, you remember when there was not a North and a South Korea, there was just a Korea.
Right.
And so, like, obviously, you've spent, others have spent their whole life with this division there and with the DNZ and, so yeah, I can imagine that would be a big fear. Like, we don't want to be like they are. And I don't think they much care if it's communism or fascism.
Right. Just authoritarianism. And I think that's probably what sets me apart from most people on the left. Especially nowadays, after the 2024 election, I think the thing that really separates me is I see a party realignment happening. I just put out a video of like Marjorie Taylor Greene going against Trump, and I see a party realignment happening. And I'm going to say something, Kelly, that you probably are going to be like, you're off your rocker. I actually could see a future 5 years from now where someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene is an independent. They're not actually part of a party. And I see a future 5 years from that, so 10 years from now, where Marjorie Taylor Greene would actually be in the Democratic Party. And I know that sounds weird, like in this moment, but I think a great realignment is happening because the Republican Party has made it very clear under MAGA and Trump that they are not just flirting with, but they are dating and they are in bed with executive authoritarian power. And when you have
two, like, like people will always say that, Hitler was a socialist because of the National Socialist Party. And they don't understand that what happened is Hitler took over a party and it had nothing to do with, like, if you'll hear me out right, Hitler was not a real Nazi. Like, at least when they started the Nationalist Socialist Party, the actual Nationalist Socialist Party, it had nothing to do with fascism or anything like that. It was just a socialist party.
Right, kind of like our Republican Party has become
that's exactly my point, is that Trump is not a Trump's the rhino. Trump's not even a conservative.
Right.
Most true conservatives I know despise Donald Trump, even more than some of the liberals I know.
Well, let me even go further, because I think this is the realignment that's happening, and I think it's the reason why people are confused. So let me start here, where I think the realignment actually started to happen. We just didn't realize it. But 20, we can always see it happen in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I think September 11th, 2001 is when the realignment started to happen. Now, what I mean by that is not the events that happened that day.
Mm-hmm.
Our response is what started this party realignment. Because our response to that was giving the President of the United States strong executive authority over our military, which right now, in this moment, we are regretting that. Now, rather, we are regretting it like in our discourse and out loud, like, oh, it's all Congress's fault for handing over, full authority to the President of the United States after 9/11 of the military. And, we could have that discourse, but I don't think we have the bandwidth, because Donald Trump is constantly causing chaos every day. And I think that's kind of part of the design. But if you look at how the party has shifted, and more importantly, how the Overton window has stretched open left and right, that's really where the realignment is starting to become clear. And when you have a system of government like we have, where it's a two-party system, and I know a lot of people say third party and all this, I gotta be completely honest with anyone who has ever studied politics. They'll know that we will never be more than a two-party system. If they've studied our politics and our political system, it's just not. It's not a thing that happens inside our Constitution.
And if I could just interject one thing there, multi-party systems aren't always necessarily better or more effective. They actually tend to be less effective in a lot of ways, because you end up having to deal with all these coalitions and everything that can just paralyze a government. And I feel like, what we're dealing with now is coalitions in the Republican Party, coalitions on the Democratic Party.
We always have that.
Those coalitions and that kind of conversation is where things need to happen.
But even in a parliamentary system, you have a majority and a minority. So you have two.
But you don't have two parties.
Right. But you have
you have
two factions. You have two factions in the government that are that.
But then one party can say, we're gonna caucus with this party for that.
Exactly. And I think that in American history, we see that in American history, but we've always kind of had two parties. Almost always just those factions inside. Now, when you consider that the Overton window stretched to the left, not moved, because if you look at the
how did it stretch to the left? Because I've heard you say that before, and I'm not sure I agree with that.
Okay, so when you have the political spectrum in political science, you would normally see it on a horseshoe. But it's easier to understand the theory of the Overton window when it's a straight line. It's much easier to understand its theory. So the Overton window, just to give the listeners a quick rundown, is it's basically the acceptable political discourse that a country and a society is willing to have. Anything outside that window is not acceptable discourse, meaning most society don't want to talk about it. It's kind of taboo. They're not really going to go there. We're not going to have big political fights and big political battles over anything outside the Overton window. Now, when Barack Obama became elected, it changed.
He didn't become elected. He won the election.
Sure. He was elected.
It wasn't a passive thing.
He became the president of the United States of America. Now, there was people in the country who were very intimidated by this. One, he was the first black president that we've ever had. He did have a Muslim sounding name, right? And Republicans kind of seized on this, right? They seized on this because of Barack Obama's agenda. And if you remember one moment where the window stretched with Barack Obama, it actually happened with Joe Biden. Joe Biden went on Meet the Press and he was asked a question. I don't remember the exact quote, but they were talking about marriage. They were talking about traditional marriage and gay marriage. And Joe Biden said on Meet the Press on a Sunday show, and this was well before we had what we have today with the internet.
So Vice President Joe Biden, not President Joe Biden.
Yeah, correct.
I lost track of it.
No, you're right. At the time, Vice President Joe Biden went on Meet the Press, and he said something of the sort, I'm for gay marriage, and I don't think it's a problem. I think the United States should recognize gay marriage, same-sex marriage. And Barack Obama had a problem because in 2008, he did not run where he supported same-sex marriages. In his 2008 campaign, Barack Obama supported traditional marriage between a man and a woman. That's how he got elected.
What they were calling, there was like a middle ground on it where they would can't remember what they're like a recognition of the relationship, but it wouldn't be called marriage. And I can't remember
some sort of union. There's a lot
civil
of
unions.
Civil unions, yes.
Yeah, that's what they would. That was
right.
Yeah.
But
he was for civil unions, but not gay marriage because
right. The marriage, the official marriage, the government marriage between people was a man and a woman, traditional. That's how Barack Obama ran in 2008. A lot of people don't remember that, but that's how he ran. Now, when Joe Biden said that on Meet the Press, Barack Obama, president at the time, was pressured by the media to verify his stance because the vice president of the United States, his number 2 in charge of the government, was saying, hey, my stance is this. So Barack Obama, in his credit, he said, I'm now for the marriage between same-sex couples. And now a lot of people thought that moved the window because we're talking about a political spectrum and this little box that moves along this line of what is acceptable discourse. A lot of people thought that moved the window to the left because that is a move towards the left.
Okay, but can I counter that with something?
Mm-hmm.
I would say the window had moved to the left long before that. It's just politicians finally caught up with what the acceptable discourse was.
But that is the acceptable discourse because I think a lot.
That's what I'm saying is that the left did not. All right, the Democrats didn't move the party to the left or the Overton window to the left. The Democrats recognized the Overton window had already moved to the left. Like people were already willing. The majority. Okay. So I think it was like 75% of American people.
This is, I think, is the confusion in our politics. This is, I think, is the confusion in our politics. Okay, policy is set by politicians. We elect our representation to go set that policy, right? And that policy is set in the legislative branch. Now, whether it be your city, your county, your state, or the federal government, there's legislative bodies. Generally speaking, across those governments, okay, there is executive authority in those governments as well. Mm-hmm. Now, the Overton window moves when the policy makers and the policy executors or the courts, because the courts are the people who, they lay out the law and they call the balls and strikes. So that's the way it's supposed to be in the Constitution. When our politics, not our public discourse, moves to what is acceptable, that's when the Overton window moves. The Overton window does not move because people are talking about it.
I'm sorry, I disagree. I think the Overton window can move independent of politicians, and politicians can also move it.
I don't know that politicians can move it. They can certainly try.
Trump has moved it all the way, moved it to the right over and over again. And
right.
This is what he does.
Right.
He will sit there and he will say, let's go invade Mexico. right? And then everybody's like, "Whoa, you can't do that. You can't just go invade Mexico."
Who
But then
who
when
says he
he
can't?
starts
What?
bombing people on the open seas under the pretext that they're cartel members, and he's carrying out these
Okay,
extradition,
so let's back up.
it's to the left of just invading Mexico, and
So
so
let's
then
back.
it's like somehow more acceptable to carry out these extrajudicial killings under the pretext that they're terrorists.
So let's
And
back up.
it's
Who
just-
is they? Who is they? Who is they? Because you said Trump says I want to bomb people in Mexico, and they say, "Oh, what are you doing?"
the general reaction from America itself, not just the media, not just other politicians, but like public polling and stuff is against it. But then when he takes, like, if he had just gone straight to bombing cartels on the open seas, or what he claims are cartels, that would have been a bridge too far. But since it's not as far as invading Mexico, somehow people find it more acceptable. And that's how he has been gradually moving the Overton window to the right repeatedly, and stretching it, as you say, repeatedly, by saying, I'm going to do this and go to an extra extreme, and then, less of an extreme. Like, we've got concentration camps being built in America, and people are accepting it and arguing for it.
Well, I mean, not only accepting and arguing, they're cheering it on.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking pictures in front of the signs like it's a tourist attraction. But
if he had run on concentration camps,
right,
he wouldn't have won.
I want to go back to the point, though, of, can a politician move the Overton window? A politician certainly can move the Overton window. But if Trump were to say, I want to bomb Mexico, and then those preceding events, and then he starts to use the military to eradicate boats in the sea. Rather, we know, I honestly am really confused about this. The reason why I'm confused is because we can't trust this administration, I think, is the first point that I'll make. And we don't know if these boats are drug cartel, because Venezuela, I think Bill Maher made this point last week, they're not really considered a drug country, right? Like, not like Colombia, right?
Well, and I mean, like, there's one, yes, there is. So there's a bunch of different things. One, cartels are not terrorist organizations. Terrorist organizations are a very specific thing,
right,
and they are trying to advocate for
they're actually capitalists. They're actually capitalists. They're just operating in illegal markets. That's the whole point.
Yeah. They're not terrorists. They don't have any political goals. They just want money.
Right.
Terrorists are all about politics. They will spend inordinate amount of money to just go and kill people to make political change.
Right.
Whether you agree with, like that. So they are not, and it's not like that means that cartels are good people. They're still murderous scumbags, but that doesn't mean they're terrorists. And terrorists are still murderous scumbags. That doesn't mean they're cartels.
And I think that's another thing that happens sometimes in that Overton window, is the changing of language. But I want to go back to the overall point here, is that Barack Obama, I don't think that the Overton window shifted. I think it stretched. I think the Overton window stretched. So it didn't move across the spectrum. It stretched to the left. Now, in response,
but in what way did it stretch to the left?
Well, I mean, through social and cultural issues.
But the cultural and social issues were already to the left.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, is it's Obama didn't change anything. He just recognized change had happened.
So the politics of it is Barack Obama ran in 2008 as a traditional marriage, supporting traditional marriage between a man and a woman. By the time we got to 2012, he ran on same-sex marriage. And because of that, in the body politic, not the discourse, not the
chatter.
The
discourse catch up to the politics?
The politics moved the Overton window, leaving room for that discourse to be inside the Overton window. Just because discourse exists does not mean it's in, or it doesn't mean it has to be in or outside the window.
I'm sorry. I see. We understand the Overton window differently. I think of the Overton window as what we call acceptable discourse. And The discourse, the acceptable discord of gay marriage was already there before Obama said anything.
If it was
Obama
acceptable,
didn't move the window moved Obama.
If it was acceptable discourse, why did Barack Obama run for traditional marriage in 2008?
Because it wasn't in 2008 and it was in 2012. There was a massive shift in gay marriage over that time frame.
Right. And what caused that?
I would say what caused that is a lot of it were things like Brokeback Mountain, a movie that made people
which is discourse. Art is discourse, right?
Yeah. And I think what happened is that you started having gay people on TV. People like what was the Will and Grace?
Mm-hmm.
I think what happened is people started to see gay people as real people. Yep. And then that changed the politics. Like all of a sudden people are like, I am for gay marriage. So then it became a winnable position to be for gay marriage.
So we're doing the cart, horse, egg, chicken argument here.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why the Overton window is tied to the policy and politics is because that the policy can't truly become part of the traditional discourse, because discourse happens. I mean, there's neo-Nazis saying right now that Jews control the world and they killed Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, but that's not acceptable discourse. It's discourse, but it's not within the window.
That's right. That's what I'm arguing.
But I am saying that gay marriage became part of the
reason why the Overton window shifted is because that discourse existed, but the politicians moved to accept that in the Overton window. So the politicians, Vice President Joe Biden, moved the Overton window, but it really was Barack Obama when he took the official policy of the United States of America as the president of the United States that he accepts the idea that same-sex marriage should exist. That's when the Overton window moved.
Well, okay. See, I think my this, and I love like that we can actually disagree a little bit on this, and
yes,
and not like be mad at each other. My understanding of the Overton window is the genesis of it was when you're running for office, the Overton, when you have to get the largest Overton window that you can, like the most the idea is that whoever gets the most votes or the most policies within the Overton window wins, like the most acceptable positions. So the politician has to adjust to the Overton window. The Overton window doesn't adjust to the politician. I think Trump is unique in that he is moving the Overton window. I don't think most politicians ever moved it. I think most politicians only succeed if they find it.
Okay. I mean, I think you have a strong argument there, but I don't believe that the discourse I don't believe that the discourse changed the Overton window. I believe Barack Obama changed the Overton window. He did it on healthcare as well. I think he did it on healthcare as well.
I think he probably helped. I think that does go back a lot further. I used to campaign for Paul Wellstone.
I'm not familiar. You'd have to remind me.
In 1993, I was canvassing for Paul Wellstone. He was a senator from the state of Minnesota, and he had this thing called Minnesota Co-Act, which was basically a single payer system for health. Kind of
like Romney Care was.
No. This wasn't like Romney or ACA. This was single payer. This was like Canada.
Okay, all right, but within the state of Minnesota.
Within the state of Minnesota, and was called Minnesota.
I think that's the system that we're going to be moving towards with the.
And they ended up doing a modified version. Like Minnesota, if you're going to get sick in Minnesota. It's one of the best states to get sick in, and they also have one of the best healthcare centers in the entire world. In case you haven't heard of it, it's called the Mayo Clinic.
Isn't it funny that the best place to get sick has the best medical facility? It doesn't sound like that's a coincidence. Yeah, but I want to go back to the Overton window.
I had a lung surgery there. I had a tumor in my right lung. I was living in Minnesota. and this was 1998. And I had to have my right lung removed. It was like a $500,000 surgery.
Yeah.
I had no insurance. Guess how much I paid?
Nothing.
Not a dime.
That's great.
Didn't affect my credit. Just that was forgiven, and
Fantastic.
I didn't die. You know, which
well,
was
I mean, you're here now, so I mean, we I mean, at least we see you on the screen. You know, so I mean, you could be AI, but I doubt that's the case. There's a
no. I have nowhere near enough eye. If I would be like artificial stupidity or something. You know.
So there's a comment in the chat. It says midterms cannot arrive soon enough. I actually believe that we do not want the midterms to arrive today, and the reason why is because I do not believe Democrats would win the midterms right now. It would be a very close call. It'd be a coin toss. I don't think that they have it in the bag. We've seen over the last week, and this goes to the Overton window, by the way. We've seen last week Marjorie Taylor Greene start to sound like a Democrat.
She's agreed with the Democrats on two things.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure.
And one of those things being the ACA, which is one of those Overton window things you were just.
Well, I don't know that she agrees with the ACA. I wouldn't go that far.
Well, she agrees with not tripling her constituents' premiums. Like she said, she's getting pounded by calls from her constituents.
Well,
I can't afford higher premiums.
I think Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't moving left, or she's not. It's not that she's trying to move towards a certain thing. I think there is something that Marjorie Taylor Greene is very upset about, and I'm not sure if Trump is the one who has made her upset, or the White House and his staff has made her upset. Now, I believe it could be an array of things. There's a whole list of things that it could be. It could be that
you want to. This is like real quick. I think it's Epstein. Remember,
I think that's at the top of the list.
She was QAnon, and she
ran
really
does hate. I think she really does hate pedophiles.
This guy sitting there stumping for the, like, I think maybe you can, like, and we need to start recognize that people can be horrible people, but that doesn't mean everything about them is horrible.
Right.
Like, you stalked David Hogg and she's an asshole for it, but that doesn't mean that she has to be like pro pedophilia. Like, she, I could really be upset about pedophilia. Right. And, like in her cuckoo QAnon world, she thought she was fighting that. But now when Epstein comes up and Trump's like, and they're doing all of these tricks to try to prevent, the truth from coming out.
Well, I mean, what if Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene was really close to Donald Trump in the campaign last year. What if Donald Trump promised her to release the Epstein files? Personally,
I wouldn't put it past him. I am fairly confident Donald Trump has broken a promise or two in his life.
I would say so, and I would say
including not to cheat on his wife.
Well, and I would say that he would probably break a promise to someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene pretty easy too.
Yeah.
But this goes back to what is acceptable in the discourse and the Overton window and moving it, right? Because I think that's what Democrats are trying to do. I think Democrats are trying to close the Overton window. And the reason why I believe that is because Democrats have long been the party that government does good things. So we're going to make the government, federal government specifically, do good things. And I think what is becoming more clear is the government can do good things as long as we, the people, elect people in good government. You elect people in bad government, government can destroy itself. It can destroy a country, it can destroy a nation, it can destroy communities. Government is really bad when it's bad. And when we have executive authority that is just unfettered and unilateral and totalitarian in nature, it's going to destroy a constitution like ours, because that's not how it's written. No, that's not how this Constitution is written.
That thing was written to prevent exactly like that was the entire point of the Constitution, right, is to prevent this.
Well, but over the 250 years that this Constitution has been in, or almost 250 years that this Constitution's been in force, we have given more and more power, Article 1 power, to the Article 2 part of the Constitution, which is the executive branch.
Yeah,
and really since FDR. We have sped that up rapidly, and really since 9/11, we have sped that up rapidly. And I believe,
and I think since 2017, we've sped it up even more rapidly with the 4-year exception.
with the Well, I mean,
I think it's gotten a lot worse under Trump. Like,
well,
I definitely think Trump has accelerated that beyond what any president has ever done without even like, there's not even a second place. You have to go down to like fifth.
I got to tell you that I'm going to say something that's probably very unpopular with the left right now, but Barack Obama advanced this very, very rapidly too. Now I'm not saying that the things that Barack Obama did were bad, but when he used his executive authority to do things like DACA, that's that executive authority, and then in the courts, right? Mm-hmm. That being churned into the court system, that laid forward a legal precedent to have executive authority. Now, Donald Trump.
And there's also, but the other side of that is you had a Senate majority or a leader or Senate minority leader that said that their whole job was to prevent him from doing anything.
Correct.
And while Mitch McConnell was Speaker of the House, you can look this up. Well, or not Speaker of the House, while he was Senate Majority Leader.
Yeah, he said in an interview.
But no, as like a minority or as the Republican leader of the Senate under Mitch McConnell's entire tenure, there were more filibusters than in the history of the rest of the country combined.
Right.
And it's under the 4 years, like just under those first 4 years when he was the minority leader and Obama was president, he had already surpassed all of the previous history. So it's not just like a small number or something.
I get it.
So you had the president, like I agree, Obama increased his executive authority, but I would also say that's because the Senate had abdicated its authority by just not even trying to work with the president.
I agree, but is it worth it in this moment? And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know yes or no. But what I will tell you is the Constitution of the United States does not allow some executive orders unless
and the Constitution of the United States doesn't have a filibuster in it either.
Well, that's right. So what is more appropriate in that moment? Is it more appropriate to give more executive power to a president, not a certain one, but all future presidents? Or is it more important for us as a country to have a conversation about why are we electing people who are going to put up with this filibuster?
Okay, what executive authority? What did like you say DACA or something? But what actual authority did he claim that you look now and say Trump couldn't do this if it weren't for DACA?
DACA actually has a lot to do with that law, and that executive order has a lot to do with immigration, has a lot to do with people's status here in the country.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the actual executive, not the politics of what the DACA meant.
Immigration law under our Constitution is given to Article 1, us. Article 1 power is us, the voters. Now, how we exert that power is through our representation. Our main representation is through Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate, but our appropriations is through, in Article 1, the power of the purse is through Congress, and we get to fire these people every 2 years. I know everyone says, I want term limits. That's a buzz.
I hate the idea of I want term.
We have term limits.
Term limits are stupid.
You have a 2-year term, and guess what? We limit it if we want to.
That's term limits are elections.
Right. Exactly.
And it's like, if you were going to go have brain surgery, would you be like, I don't want to have anybody operating on my brain that has more than 10 years of experience?
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? Like, there's something valuable about experience when you're dealing with some of these very, very complex issues. So that's why I think term limits are stupid. It's like experience limits. It's not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But I think if we look at, again, I'm not saying DACA is bad. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the executive authority that was given to the president of the United States.
That's why I'm asking, what authority did he claim
on immigration?
Like Trump is saying he has, when Trump says that he has immunity.
Okay, let me
like that's an authority he has. What authority did Obama claim in DACA? And I think you're onto something with the whole with what you're saying about immigration law being the purview of the Congress.
Let's make it very simple. Barack Obama with DACA basically said the president of the United States has the ability to make sure that with the federal power, they can protect people's status here in the country without Congress, circumventing Congress. The same is true when you take that away. Okay. If you, as the president of the United States, have the executive authority to basically set immigration policy and say what people's immigration status is and if they can stay here, then the president of the United States gets to decide, I don't like your immigration status, I'm going to make you leave. Okay.
So let me just, I think I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So, and a perfect example would be Biden saying, okay, these Haitians can come over here and these Argentinians can come over here. Correct. And then Trump gets elected and says,
they're out.
No, you can't.
And
you end up with this really
fluid just a pendulum swing. It's a pendulum swing on Article 1 power. We do not want pendulum swings on Article 1 power. What we want is us, the people, to elect representatives to go and legislate. If a law needs to be changed, which certainly immigration policy definitely needs to be changed at a federal level. I don't know if anyone's noticing what's going on, but people are in mask and dressed up as jackbooted thugs are out there kidnapping people because they're brown. It seems a little out of sort that our policy would lead us to this position. But it is the executive power that we have given to the president of the United States that has caused this, not Trump. I am not going to buy the argument that Trump is the problem. What is the problem is our country is given too much executive authority, and we put up and tolerate with the executive branch having too much executive authority. That is our problem. Rather, it's
I would just say it's possible to have more than one problem at the same time. Like Trump is part of the problem. And so is what you're saying.
No.
Giving him all that authority is part of the problem. But giving him all that authority is possible because we've been doing it for the last
Trump is the reason why we do not want to have this problem. Trump is the reason why we do not want to have this problem. I would much rather not have this problem. It doesn't matter how good or how bad the president is. Yeah. I think as a country, if we were really more worried and more concerned with our Congress, our representation in Congress, that's what I believe should be our worry and should be where our discourse is. We really shouldn't give a hoot who the president of the United States is. Number one, they only get 2 terms. And every 4 years, we get to fire them. And we get to have 2 Congresses in their terms.
That's a great point. And a lot of times, we've changed over the Congress in their terms.
Well, most of the times it does. And the reason why is because executive authority makes clear that they need checks. And that's normally what happens is a president will bring in a Congress in their party in power. They will do their thing. And the American people go, nah, we didn't really like that. So we're going to oppose you in the Congress. Right.
And that happened under Clinton. That happened under Bush. That happened under Obama. That happened under Trump. And that happened under Biden. And it quite possibly could happen under Trump a second time.
Well, that is a good point. Now, I think.
So hang on 1 second. Valor.
Yeah.
I put their comment on the banner here. I understand Tony's point. However, congressional laws should supersede presidential executive orders. The judicial system is also there to check and balance the power. And correct. What are your thoughts on that? Because there's been some, I think a unique spin on this, which is on the Trump side and the Trump administration, is just telling the court to go fornicate themselves.
Well, I mean, and the reason why is because Congress has no backbone. They're cowards. I mean, that's the reason why. I mean, the only thing saving us from authoritarianism, full-on authoritarianism at this point, is Article 3 power. It is standing in his way. Now, there is politics involved here, too. I think this is where Democrats are failing. A lot of people don't like when I bash Democrats in this moment. But if we're going to win 2026, which I want the opposition party to authoritarianism to win, okay, that's what I want. I have kind of taken myself out of the situation where I would call myself a Democrat. I am not going to say that until I think this political realignment falls. And the Democrats decide they're the party against executive power. and they want to decentralize power inside the federal government back to more localized power, which one of the localized powers would be us electing our United States representatives. Okay. But the only political opposition to Donald Trump, real political opposition, has been Gavin Newsom with the gerrymandering. That has been the real only political opposition. Almost no other political opposition to Trump. There's certainly no congressional opposition. Now,
Democrats, there's a couple of there's like Democrats have like Pittsburgh and some of, in terms of this military invasion of U.S. cities, there's been some opposition there, and even a couple of Republican governors now have come up and said, "Yay!"
Well, I mean, to come to the microphone and give vocal opposition is one thing, but political opposition is different. What a good political opposition would be from like the Democratic governors and Democratic mayors of this country would be to, because they both have associations, they would do a joint convention, an emergency joint convention. And what those associations would do with Democratic mayors and Democratic governors is they would develop the Democratic's platform on crime, because Democrats do not have a platform on crime. Their platform in crime is down. That's their platform, which is not a platform on the actual existence of it and what they're going to do to solve a problem of crime, no matter where it may be, even if it is down overall. Now, what they would do is
they're still living down the crime bill that passed under Clinton. They're still getting blamed for actually having one that worked.
Right. So, but blame is no excuse to participate in politics. So what they would do, I believe the politics of it. Now, this isn't a huge formal policy of the Democratic Party, but this is where that Overton window gets shifted when the actual policymakers make decisions and say where they are. So what they would do is they would get quote unquote tough on crime. Because I don't know if anyone's noticed, but Donald Trump and the Republicans are 100% going to run this midterm on crime. The problem
of course they are. And we're the criminals. Anybody that resists him is a criminal. They're already calling the No Kings
protest it's
on October 18th terrorist.
Yeah. Oh, I heard Mike Johnson this morning. But here's the thing, is that if the Democratic mayors and the Democratic governors under those associations, under emergency joint convention, so making this quote unquote official, would come up with a plan, a policy platform for crime across the nation, ask the federal government for a specific amount of money to carry out this platform, go to the federal government where all the executive authority lies, all the authority, because Congress isn't going to do this. So go to the president and challenge the executive power. Okay. This is key. Challenge the executive power with this measure of saying, give us this money, Mr. President. Don't give $20 billion to Argentina. Give us $20 billion, and we will do these things in these Democratic-run cities that you say are bad and crime, and we will get it down. But here's the thing. Here's the political capital. Okay, here's the political capital that the liberals would gain, is Trump would say no. Okay, and that's where the political capital lies. The problem is Democrats are kind of scared of their base. They're really terrified of their base. And they're really scared of
but I would say, online. Can I ask you a question about this? Because this is one thing that I always hate is, and it's not just about what you're just saying. Republicans are always allowed to control the narrative. Like, if the Democrats do that, then they have to carry out, like, follow through on this false narrative that crime is up, that crime is bad, that right now crime rates are
I'll tell you what's not a false narrative.
So what I get tired of is Republicans being able to control the narrative through false narratives. Okay. And then what you're saying is what the Democrats need to do is they need to follow through on this false narrative to show that the Republicans actually don't care about it.
I'm going to give you something that the liberals or the left or Democrats are not going to like. The false narrative is that crime is down. Now, it doesn't mean that the statistics don't show it. crime is crime
I
is.
think people like our like the way we discuss things. DT
Yeah,
says,
no,
"More
I
book,
think
please." And then he
actually
says, "You two should do this on the regular." And that's why I wanted to talk to you. That's why I like talking to you. We don't agree with everything, but I think we both agree that we
no,
respect the other person's view.
I think we agree on things. We just have a different prism that we look through, right? Everyone
And
has
actually, you know what? I was gonna say
Yeah.
we should call it not the Overton window, but the Overton prism, because I was thinking about it.
Could be, yeah.
And
it could be.
And it's like there's different aspects of it, right? There is the political aspect of it, and there is the social discourse aspect of it, and then there's the social discourse of people that actually vote aspect of it. So it's not just like a window so much; it's a prism with different.
Well, because we're all individuals. We're all individuals that have our own opinions, but we still are a nation that self-governs, right? So we have to self-govern as a whole with 330 million individuals. That's a difficult task. Now, here's what I'll tell you about the crime, the false narrative. The false narrative is that Democrats say crime is down overall. That's a false narrative. The reason why it's a false narrative is because they totally dump on their entire base. Crime is not down in impoverished areas. That's all BS. That's BS. It is down overall, but it is not down in impoverished areas. The reason why is because
I think their point would be that those impoverished areas, those are something that should be local. Like Republicans are all about like state governance and local.
No, they're not.
Governance,
They used to be.
So they want to go into
that's
like certain parts of Chicago.
The argument. That's the argument that I'm making.
People.
Yeah, but that's the argument that I'm making is Republicans are not that way. What is local about Donald Trump sending the Texas National Guard to Illinois? What's local about that?
Yeah. I loved it. There was a tweet somebody said, Greg Abbott, because I'm in Texas. And so somebody said, why is Greg Abbott sending his National Guard to go and arrest the people that he bussed over there? Well, like he bussed the people to Chicago. Now he's got to bust the National Guard to get the people out of there.
But that's what I'm saying is Republicans aren't for states' rights. They're not for local government. They're not for small government. They're for unilateral, totalitarian, authoritarian type power.
Amen.
And I got to tell you, until Democrats really know that, the institution of the Democratic Party, and they oppose that, okay, that's the thing they have to oppose. If they oppose that, then we have a real opposition. Not some flimsy opposition, which is now back to the crime narrative. If Democrats said this, right, if this was their platform, that, hey, we're going to be tough on violent crime, we're going to be tough on property damage, okay, so vandalism and breaking windows and breaking into houses or breaking into businesses, right, and petty theft. If Democrats got tough on those 3 points of crime, violent crime, property damage, and petty theft, almost all those communities would appreciate the Democrats' messaging. The Democrats' messaging now to the communities who suffer under violent crime, which is mainly impoverished communities. If you can imagine it, the impoverished communities in this country have a hell of a lot of people of color in them. Violent crime, property damage, and petty theft. If you get tough on those things, then what you're doing is you're helping your coalition that Democrats say that they want to help. Because Democrats always are about the impoverished. They're always about the poor. They're always about poor communities and lifting them up. But they want to do nothing about the crime in these communities. It's the one reason why poverty is driven in these communities is because of the crime. Yeah. And for us to ignore that, us to act like that doesn't exist because, well, we don't want to be locking black men up. Well, I mean, if black men are committing violent crime, then yes, we do.
Well, we want to, and I think that there's like, there is the other side of it where, you know, like with drug possession, where black people and white people have the same amount, and black people are far more like, and I think that gets conflated, and I think that's what you're trying to do.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying,
we need to distingush between these things.
But Democrats,
and you know what I'm thinking about right now? It's like what you're really making me think about. Is like, you see, what have the Democrats done for us? And I've always thought,
What have you done for
What
me
are the
lately?
Republicans doing, saying they're going to do for you?
But
And
that
it could be, you know, like I've been on the south side of Chicago. I've walked around. I've eaten at places that a lot of, like Stephen Miller would never, ever dare step foot in, as tough as he thinks he has. You know, I've been to Harold's on the south side, had the best lunch of my life.
Yeah.
One of the best lunches of my life, and had like incredibly friendly conversations. It's like, it's not as scary as some people make it out to be. On the other hand, I know people from the south side that have lost multiple relatives just to, gun violence, and gang violence, when they weren't even in gangs. They just happened to be standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I see what you're saying. Like, it might not be that they're looking at, oh, what have the Democrats done for us? They're not looking at what kind of job opportunities am I getting. They're looking at what's going to stop my brother from being murdered.
Well,
and
I mean, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. And I'm gonna say this, and a lot of people aren't gonna like this, but to all the bougie white liberals out there, if you could not be comfortable in letting your kid ride up and down your street in front of your house, or go walk down to their friend's house without them getting shot and killed, you would be all up in arms. And that's how these people feel in their communities, that their children aren't safe, that they aren't safe. And it's not because crime crime isn't down overall. That's not why. But when these communities who have crime as a problem as a result of poverty, and Democrats say they're for poor people and they're going to have a platform to help you, get out of poverty and all this, but they absolutely will not admit that those communities have a problem with crime. Do you know how much that feels like they're spitting in their face?
And then Republicans do, like, you've got I want chipmunk milk here. Fear mongering and lies is what Republicans sell, and it works. And it's like, it also, like, they're trying, like, the something can be true and be racist at the same time.
Correct.
Like if you're telling a black person, if you're talking to a black person on the, one of the higher crime neighborhoods in inner city Chicago, about crime in that area, that's a valid thing to talk about. But when you're talking about it to the white woman in Elgin, Illinois, about it, then it's racism. Do you see what I'm like? They use that fear to get white suburban women to vote.
Why wouldn't Democrats have a platform to attract those people in those communities to support them? That's the other thing too, because I seen a Katie Porter video, and a lot of people are trying to defend Katie Porter. I'm like, you're ridiculous if you're trying to defend her. Where she said, basically in the interview, she's like, I don't need those votes. And I cannot believe that a politician who's going to run for a state basically said, I don't care about your vote in an interview. I was like, wow, that is wild that we are to a state or a position that someone running for a state, especially an executive of a state like a governor, would say, I don't care about your vote. I'm like, whoa, that's wild stuff. Like, it's basically Katie Porter is starting her campaign for governor saying, giving the middle finger to a certain portion of the state that I don't care about.
Did she say that she didn't care about their vote?
Well, she was asked in an interview, and there's a lot of debate on Katie Porter's behavior in this interview after she's kind of asked this question and challenged on this question, because Katie Porter says, well, I didn't know you were going to have follow-up questions and all that. And I'm like, wow, you're scared of follow-up questions, Katie Porter? Like, she was one of the best follow-up question in Congress.
Yeah,
and
but what is the context is all I'm trying to get at.
The context is that the reporter asked Katie, what is she going to do to try to attract the 40% of Trump voters to vote for her? And she said, I don't care. I don't care. And I mean, that's the problem.
To be fair, she doesn't need the 40% of Trump voters to
That's
win.
not the point.
But it's not true. It's still true.
Right. But I mean, no politician is ever going to get 100% of the votes, but they should try their best. Like you said earlier, if the prism of the Overton window is to make sure you get as many people in that Overton window, why would you just, before you even start your campaign, give the middle finger to 40% and get them out of your Overton window almost immediately just because of who they voted for in the past? That doesn't mean someone in California doesn't regret their vote for Trump now.
Can I answer? Can I give you an answer to that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. For instance, I have a transgender nephew. Mm-hmm. Okay. And one of the big reasons that they give for Trump winning is, like all his anti-trans stuff.
Sure.
And so then I've seen people like say, and even Governor Newsom has done it, kind of gone on into this, like anti-trans stuff. And I would say, if you're trying to appeal to MAGA people by becoming MAGA, MAGA still wins. Like, trans people actually deserve rights,
Sure. I mean, it's like, you can in talk the Constitution. It's in the
trans people in sports if you want. And if you want to talk about trans people in sports, I would just say that is something that should be done, determined at local levels, at the competition levels. Let the states work that out. Let the competition committees work out that. We do not need to focus so much national attention on a couple of hundred people. Like, it shouldn't be an issue.
Right. And let me tell you something.
And I also feel like, I'm not going to sit there and dump on trans people in order to win an election. So
who's dumped on trans people?
Anti-trans to
did Gavin Newsom dump on trans people?
What's that?
Did Gavin Newsom dump on trans people?
He's taken some positions on trans people that can be viewed as pretty anti-trans.
I think the main and maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's other stuff out there that I haven't seen, but I think the main thing is the interview with actually Charlie Kirk, where they were talking about athletics specifically on trans people. And I believe Charlie Kirk brought up one specific case of a trans athlete. And I think Gavin Newsom's position was that is unfair. Now, I don't believe that's anti-trans. I believe that's Gavin Newsom saying, I don't think that case is fair personally, and the league should handle it. I think he's agreeing with what you're saying. But I will say this. I think this is our trouble, is that Katie Porter and Gavin Newsom or anyone else wants to go to that issue. When we go to that issue, we play their game. Because I bet $1 million.
Well, and that's why I say we should the only answer to that should be left to the competition committees.
I bet,
in all honesty, I've studied this quite a bit, and there are some sports where transgender women do have an advantage. There are some sports where transgender men have an advantage.
Right,
and
but I think
transgender people don't have any advantage, and it saves lives.
But I think
saves teen lives. And that to me should be the most important part of the conversation. But it shouldn't be a federal conversation. It shouldn't be a national conversation.
I think what Katie Porter's answer should have been, back to the original point, I think what Katie Porter's answer should have been is that, of course, I'm going to try to attract those people who voted for Donald Trump. They have a large economic stake in our state. We're the fourth largest economy in the world. Mm-hmm. We are the economic backbone of the United States, and it's very important that I make sure that I articulate what my positions are on the economy, because I think here's the thing: they want us fighting over the culture issues like trans athletes so that we ignore where we actually all get along, which is economics. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but soybean farmers are becoming intensely anti-Trump.
Okay.
And the Democrats aren't messaging to them either.
Mm-hmm. I want to follow up on this because you said some things to me the other day that I found really, really interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
What would you do? Like you mentioned some things like AOC going out there and talking to farmers in Arkansas. Sure. Explain that. I think that is brilliant.
So let's do that. And then I have to go get ready for my show. So I've got about 10, 15 minutes. And that's about how long this conversation will take. So I want the audience watching this to imagine, first off, that I want you to see like a video on the internet, right? I want you to imagine you're scrolling through social media. And I know this is kind of weird to do it this way, but I think if I start somewhere else, you won't buy into what I'm trying to say. And the reason why is because your bias will start to capture you before you know the end result. So let's say you're scrolling through your Facebook or your Twitter or your Blue Sky, wherever you're scrolling through, and you see a video of AOC and you stop. You're like, ooh, I want to watch a video of AOC. And AOC is in a pair of rubber boots. And she's standing in a soybean field, right? And she's talking to a very large white man in overalls and a Trump ball cap, like Trump 2024 ball cap, in the middle of a soybean field. Now, it's at a distance. It's not close up. You can't hear what they're saying. You just can see them getting along in that soybean field, even though he's wearing the Trump hat and it's AOC in a pair of rubber boots. And maybe she's got her fancy city clothes on or something. I don't know. But that video would spark a conversation. That video would spark discourse, because there are literally, and have been in recent weeks and recent months, farmers in Arkansas. I've seen a video of it where they had a meeting. They were literally praying for socialism, what most people would consider socialism in this country. You have AOC, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. You could throw in Zora Mamdani, who at some point either self-identify as a socialist or may identify as a democratic socialist or on the socialist end of the democratic spectrum. They have not gone to build a coalition with the people in Arkansas praying for socialism. Now, I always get this idea that, oh, well, those people in Arkansas, they won't accept AOC. They won't accept Zora Mamdani. They won't accept Elizabeth Warren. They won't accept Bernie Sanders. They would if they wouldn't go down to have a photo op. They would certainly welcome them. And let me tell you something about AOC and Bernie Sanders specifically that they could do. Bernie Sanders and AOC are elected members to Congress through the Senate and through the House. They have actual power through a different seated state, but they have actual power that they can use to work with those farmers' representatives in those bodies to bring bills to the floor for those farmers. So what AOC and Bernie Sanders could do, AOC specifically, because I kind of like that imagery more of AOC standing in a field with rubber boots next to a big fat guy.
I think that would be, as
yeah,
long
that would
as
be
they're
great
not white DeSantis boots.
Well, no. Well, I mean, most rubber boots are black with the red stripe at the top. You know what I mean? But most people do not wear white rubber boots. That's
remember that
I remember
DeSantis go-go boots.
But here's what I'll tell you is that AOC could go to those farmers and say, look, I know we disagree vehemently on almost everything else. But what can she wouldn't say, I'm going to. She would say, what can I do for you that is going to help you get your representation, who is kissing Trump's tuchus on trade policy? What can I do to help them come to your side? And I'll be on your side too on this issue, on the trade, on the tariffs. Because what Democrat right now is for tariffs? What Democrat is for the trade war? I would venture to say that there are very few institutional elected Democrats or people trying to get elected as Democrats who are all excited about a trade war and tariffs. I would say it would be few and far between to find these. And I got to tell you that these farmers are on their last nerve to do something about this, especially after Donald Trump and Scott Bessent, our Secretary of Treasury, sent $20 billion of our money to Argentina, who is one of the leading competitors of our soybean farmers to China here, which is the reason why the market is dried up and the soybean farmers can't sell a single soybean. I would venture to say that I bet Democrats could message correctly and find a coalition of people who voted for Trump, who are sick and tired of his trade war, that they could actually form a coalition in Congress of a few representatives. Because let me tell you, when you go into these rural areas, into the country where the farmers are, they're the economic backbone of those communities. The voters,
so make those Republican senators and those Republican representatives more afraid of their voters than they are of Trump.
That's right. And Democrats could do that if they had the courage to message, if they had the courage to step outside their boundaries and say, I don't care if a soybean farmer voted for Trump 3 times. I don't care that he did. They're a soybean farmer. They're Americans. That's American GDP. That's American economy. It's going to affect all Americans, including people in my district. And Zoran Mamdani, who is running on government grocery stores. Well, who is going to grow the groceries that are going to be in these grocery stores? Are they going to grow them out on the sidewalks in Manhattan? Are they going to raise the beef and the pork and the chicken and the turkey back behind the dumpster in Brooklyn and the Bronx? No, they're going to raise them on American farms. And why shouldn't we want that American commodity to be sold in a government grocery store in New York City? If that's the case, if that's the idea, but we have to get those farmers on our side. And if we don't,
Tony, I could just add to that, it's not just about tariffs. It's also about the mass deportations. Like all of these small farmers that rely so much on undocumented migrants to do the work because they simply cannot stay in business without that. They're not evil people. They're just trying to, keep their farms afloat. Like that's another, and you go back to immigration reform, like you talked about earlier. That's why we need real immigration reform to where those migrant workers can work for those farmers and work fairly for those.
Let me give you one more layer of this onion, if I may. No pun intended. I'm a pun master.
Hey, it's the pun show. We are allowed puns.
Let me give you one more layer of this picked onion here, okay? Here's another layer. When you leave these farmers out in the cold, the Democrats leave them out of the representation because the Republicans won't represent them properly in the Senate, in the House. So Democrats have to step up and do that, even though they're not representing them out of their district. They're representing their interest of their district because those farmers benefit the people in their district. When those Democrats would do that, what they will stymie is billionaires and rich people coming up and buying farmland, because that's what's going to happen.
That is exactly what
these farmers.
I've been blasting that on this show.
Yep. So not only is this to combat Trump tearing down our national food security, because that's what he's doing with his tariffs. He's destroying our food security in this nation. Now you have the ability for economic coalitions to be built across political spectrums. And then you have the ability to fight the oligarchy as well. So it's a three-pronged fight. If the Democrats would just do their jobs, which is the politics, they would just do their job of the politics. And their job on politics isn't to pick a fight. Their job on politics is to find the opposition and be the opposition. The opposition is Trump's tariffs. That's the opposition.
You know what you just made me think of?
Yeah.
Is how one of their most effective tools that they used in 2024 that the Republicans used was going into Democratic areas and saying, what have the Democrats done for you? And I think that if the Democrats were to go into Arkansas, were to go into Missouri, where you're at, with the, in the rural farms in North Dakota, in South Dakota, in Idaho, and Wyoming, and say, what has Donald Trump actually done for you?
Yep.
And then that could make a difference.
And let me tell you something. You're talking about a political party shift. And here's the political party shift, and I'll give it to you really quickly before I go, is that the Republicans did that. The Republicans have done that since the 1980s. They became the party of small government. They went localized. They went to the local governments. They took over the governments of the cities and the counties. They took over the state governments one by one, and they elected members of Congress. They gerrymandered districts to become a false majority.
And there's a kind of efficiency to that people overlooked. Like if you look at like Wyoming, which has 3 votes and like 600,000 people, has 3 electoral votes and 600,000 people. And let's say that they get, 70% Republican and 30% Democrat. And so that means if you can flip like 150,000 votes, you get 3 more electoral votes. Right. Versus in California, to get 3 more electoral votes, you have to flip millions of people.
So where do you find those
So it's
coalitions?
like if you want to go and
Yep.
you really want, like we think of the Wyomings and the North Dakotas as
Yep.
not
We
mattering.
think they're
But
not
that's
out.
like efficient economic politics right there, and we need to realize that.
Yeah, well, and here's the one last thing I'll give you is all this hinges on the Democratic Party saying enough of executive power, enough of the federal government, get the federal government off my back, get the federal government off my back. That's what they should be saying. That's where they should move. The faster
You just dropped, and I don't know if that's you or me. Okay, I don't know what happened. I've got Tony frozen, and I don't know if I'm still okay or not. It looks like I think I just lost Tony. Okay, so Tony frozen dropped. Sorry, Tony. I don't know what to do. But you have a, it's always, you ever notice like when people freeze and drop, that their facial expressions are always in the perfect, like like weird monstrosity face. Anyway, so we'll see if he comes back. I don't know if he will. So while he's gone, I am going to I'm just gonna share something real quick with you. If you are planning on going to okay, Tony just texted me and his internet dropped. So I'm just gonna share this with you. I hope it wasn't too weird. Like we were kind of like talking over each other a lot, but that's kind of the way, that's our rapport, and it's why I like him. We really do. I think we agree on like 90% of stuff, and we disagree on 10%, and mostly it's more about strategy than philosophy. And that's why I want to, do this show, is I like to have people I don't agree with everything on. And so I think, I think our discourse is good. Like it's good to talk to people that you don't 100% agree with everything. All right. But while we're waiting to see if he will come back or whatever, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to show you something. While you're here, this is, oh, not what I was hoping for. Okay. So, okay, where is my store? Okay. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Okay. Anyway, I am totally messing this up. Let me see. I know what I can do. All right. So here we go. I'm selling these t-shirts, and on my punt store, I'll put the link. You can actually get them from my YouTube store. And if you're planning on going to the No Kings Parade, I'm selling these t-shirts. It's kind of a new thing that I'm just starting doing. And here, all right. So selling these, they're I Am Not a Terrorist t-shirts. And on the back of them, it says Antifa. And I've also got them in a hoodie. So if you want to, buy one, go ahead. That you can get them in my new store, my YouTube store. But half of the proceeds for that I'm giving to Mark Stein, because I think a lot of people that are going to need legal help, he might be providing. And you've got Donald Trump out there and his administration basically already accusing everybody that's going to be participating in that in that protest. We're all terrorists now. So get your I Am Not a Terrorist t-shirts or hoodies, and there you go. But if you don't want them, you don't want them. Yeah. So Derek, thanks for letting me know. He's saying he just spoke to Tony and he lost his internet connection. I hope he gets it up before his show. But yeah, he texted me and let me know. So thanks Valor for subscribing, and sub to Tony. Oh wow. Okay, so I thought you were a follower of Tony already, so that's kind of neat if you got us both from this. So and you know, if you aren't already planning on doing this, I have been encouraging people. If you have, like, not everybody has the physical capacity to go out and protest. I am one of those people. I have one lung. I have long COVID. I just physically, literally cannot do it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make some food. I'm going to send it to the protests. And I'm also like trying to raise some money to send to help defend people that are arrested in the protests unconstitutionally. So, man, that's why I'm giving it to Mark Stein. So if you can physically go, I ask you to go. If you cannot physically go, send people water, send people food, send people money. If you know, like, or not money, but send people substance, so that, because they're actually marching, they're actually spending calories and stuff. So if you can bring out some granola bars and hand them out, or some bottles of water, or make some muffins or whatever, help people that are protesting. If you can't do either of those things, then send them money. And if you can't do them any of those things, then at least blast it on social media or whatever, because this is important. There is there's a point, like, where I've been saying we need to be too big to jail. Like, have the protest be so big that even if he sends in the National Guard against everybody, there's only so many millions of people that he can accuse of being terrorists before it's obvious that not everybody is a terrorist. So, okay. And Tony just popped in. Sorry, lost my internet. That's okay, Tony. I got your text. Thanks for letting me know. And I really did enjoy talking to you. One of the best conversations I think the show has ever had. I love that we can, you know, blast back and forth the way we did. So good luck on your show. I hope you get your internet back first. Anyway, thanks everybody for coming on and watching. And Derek says, you can't arrest us all. You can't. Too big to jail. That's what we need to be. So October 18th, be there, or be trying to be there, or be helpful. Anyway, something like that. I can't think of something that rhymes with there other than square. Be there or be where, because you're going to be screwed if you're not. Anyway, all right. Thanks for watching. I will see you around the interwebs. And I did want to mention, next week I've got guests lined up all through the week. I've got an economist coming on. I've got Joe coming on. You know, she seems like a really interesting person. And I've got I don't know if you know Mike Pence's mother on Twitter. She's coming on. And who else? And then we've got another Antifa, I am not a terrorist episode. And then there's one other person on Friday that I can't think of right now. But we've got a full week next week. So look forward to seeing you guys again. And thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody that logged on today. Talk to you later.